Hello, my dear children. This is P. Venkateshwarlu, PGT Physics, the Nandal Public School. Okay, my dear children, yesterday I sent one lab activity. Means in section B, concave mirror. Means in that activity we have to find focal length of a given concave mirror. Okay, values are given, graph, everything. Okay, after that, after along that video I sent one PDF document. Okay, that PDF document is based on the activity record. Okay, my dear children, we have two records. Okay, so first one is activity record, second one is lab experiment record. Okay, my dear children, so we have how many records? Two records. What are they? First one activity record, second one experiment records. Okay, so in activity record we have 6 activities: activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, activity 4, activity 5 and activity 6, my dear children. Understand, my dear children? Okay, you have to write activity 1, activity 2. So in activity record, okay, everything you can copy from the PDF document. Okay, so no need to change any correction. So you don't write last year dates. Okay, so after I will explain after come early in our school. Okay, my children, after coming I will explain everything, that is date. And so you have to first complete activity record. You don't write experiment record, I will explain. So I will say to you to write active experiment record soon. Okay, some modification is there, so we have to reduce that 16 experiment to 8 or 10. Means up to we can up to 6 I have to remove the lab experiment. Okay, so until you can wait and you have to complete this activity record, my children. Okay, clear? It's clear, my children? Yes. Okay, so here the chapter neatly completed. Okay, everything completed. So in this content some of the main important one removed for the board examination. Okay, so my dear children, that removed content I didn't explain, no need that one. So how much amount of content I explained, that is for our board examination. Okay, after this explanation of neatly chapter, so I am going through, I'm interested to going through previous board exam questions. Okay, my children, so the content is completed. So once you can go through this questions. Okay, small definitions and 4 marks 3 marks question. Okay, my children, yes. First question, define binding energy of a nucleus. Already said, my children, the amount of energy required to split the protons neutrons from the nuclei, that energy is called binding energy. Okay, so here the given binding energy Be, it is defined as the minimum energy required to separate nucleons and place them at rest at infinite distance apart. It is equivalent energy of mass defect, that is B is equal to delta M into C square, not X, delta M C square, that is into delta M is mass defect. Okay, so what is meant by the term binding energy per nucleon? Yes, binding energy per nucleon, EBN, it is the average energy per nucleon needed to separate a nucleus into its individual nucleons. E binding energy, EB by A, that is equal to delta M C square by A. The binding energies of deuteron H12 and alpha particle helium-24 are 1.25 and 7.2 mega electron volt per nucleon respectively. Which nucleus is more stable? Yes, binding energy is more stable. Alpha particle helium 24 is more stable. Binding energy per nucleon of helium 24 is more than that of deuteron, that is H12. Yes, which out of two nuclei X37 and Y34 is more stable? Yes, nucleus X37 is more stable because neutron per proton ratio for X37 is more than that of for Y34. Okay, reason: nucleus is more stable if it has first one, high value of binding energy per nucleon, greater neutron proton ratio, or even nucleus. Why is a mass of nuclei always less than the sum of the masses of its constituent neutrons and protons? Yes. When nucleons are approaches each other to form a nuclei, they strong attract each other. Hence, their potential energy decreases and becomes negative. This decrease in potential energy results in the decrease in the mass of the nucleons. If the nucleons of nucleus are separated far apart from each other, the sum of the masses of all these nucleons is larger than the mass of the nucleus Y. Yes. For the separation of nucleons to distance far apart from each other, an energy equal to binding energy of the nucleus is given to these nucleons from E is equal to delta mc square. Thus mass difference comes. Coming to next slide, in a nuclear reaction, helium 23 plus helium 23 giving rise helium 24 plus H11 plus 12.86 mega electron volt. Through the number of nucleons is conserved on both sides of the reaction. Yet the energy is released. How? Explain. Since certain mass disappears in the formation of nucleus like mass defect, it is appears in form of energy is equal to delta mc square. Delta m is mass defect. Thus, the difference of binding energy of the two sides appears as energy released or absorbed in a nuclear reaction. Yes, next one. A nucleus with mass number A is equal to 240 and binding energy per nucleon is 77.6 mega electron volts breaks into two fragments, each of A is equal to 120 with binding energy per nucleon 8.5 mega electron volt. Calculate the energy released. Yes, by using energy released, binding energy of two fragments minus binding energy of nucleus, 2 into 120 into 8.5 minus 240 into 7.6. Okay, so 2 into 120, yes. So because binding energy per nucleon, that value is 8.5. So because two fragments, that's why 2 into atomic mass number into binding energy per nucleon minus 241 into 240 into 7.6. Okay, so by cancellation, by subtraction, we can get 240 into 8.5 minus 7.6, that is equal to 240 into 0.9. Yes, that value is 216 mega electron volt. Calculate the energy released in the fusion. Helium 12 plus helium 12 giving us helium 23 plus neutron, where binding energy of H12 is 2.23 mega electron volt and binding energy of helium 23 is 7.73 mega electron volt. Energy released: binding energy of helium 23 minus binding energy of H12 plus H12. From that given data, 7.73 minus 2.23 plus 2.23 is equal to 3.73 mega electron volt. Calculate the binding energy per nucleon of calcium 2040 nucleus. Yes, they given some data. Calcium 2040 mass 39.962589 units, and mass of proton they given 1.007825 units. Mass of neutron 1.008665 units, and 1 unit which is converted into energy 931 mega electron volt per c square. Mass defect delta m based on the formula ZMP plus A minus ZMN minus Mn. Z means number of protons. MP means mass of protons. A atomic mass number. Z atomic number. Mn mass of neutron minus M suffix capital N mass of the nuclei. So according to given data, 20 into 1.007825 plus 20 into 1.008665 minus 39.9652 962589. After calculation, we can get that value is 0.367211. Binding energy is equal to 0.367211 into 931, that is equal to 341.87 mega electron volt. Binding energy per nucleon, binding energy per atomic mass number, that is 341.87 by 48.547 mega electron volt. Okay, so already I said, my children, binding energy curve, very important one. Okay, very important one question we can go through this. Okay, here two things is there: lighter nucleus and heavier nuclei. So based on that, we have to decide what are the nucleons undergoes nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. Okay, this is based on the nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. Okay, see here, nuclear reactor, my children. Okay, nuclear reactor is a device which converts nuclear energy into electrical energy. Okay, my children. Okay, my children, coming to last chapter, means chapter number 14, semiconductors and electronic device. Okay, children. So in this content, we have to discuss about energy bonds in solids, energy bond in diagrams, metals, semiconductors and insulators, intrinsic semiconductors, intrinsic electrons and holes, doping of a semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductors, N-type and P-type semiconductors, carrier concentration in semiconductors, distinguish between intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors, distinction between semiconductors and metals, conductivity of a semiconductors. Okay, so after that we have to discuss about junction diode. Okay, so PN junction diode and applications of PN junction diode, my children. Okay, coming to introduction, the basic buildings of any electric circuit are the devices which have controlled flow of electrons. Be careful, my dear children. The basic buildings blocks of any electronic circuit are the devices which have controlled flow of electrons. Means controlled flow of electrons means, so consider a metal. Okay, consider a metal means metal allows large amount of current. Okay, so consider any small thing like so electric instrument like mobile, so and other electric gadget. Okay, which allows less current. Okay, So means by sending large amount of current through devices or to through another places, it's possible. Okay, it is impossible to send less amount of current through any devices. Okay, so here what is that history? Before the discovery of semiconductor devices, such devices were mostly vacuum tube. The vacuum tube, which have two electrodes, anode and cathode, are called diode valve, and the tube which have three electrodes, cathode, anode and grid, are called triode valve. Triode valve. Such devices were bulky, consume high power, generally operate at high voltage, and have limited life and low reliability. Okay, so my children, such devices were bulky, consume high power, generally operates at high voltage, and have limited life and low reliability. Low reliability. Okay, my children, here the thing is, so how we can send less current? Okay, so the introduction of semiconductors, it is possible to send to flow the controlled flow of electrons. Okay, see here, and semiconductor diode and its application. The seed of growth and development of modern solid state semiconductor electronic goes back to 1930, when it was realized that some semiconductors and their junctions have the ability of controlling the number and the direction of flow of charges through them. Simple excitation with the help of light, heat, or small applied voltage can change the number of mobile charge carriers in a semiconductors. The supply and flow of charge carriers in the devices are within the solids itself. No vacuum or external heating is required. So these devices are small in size, consume low power, operate at low voltage, and have long life and high reliability. Okay, coming to energy bands in solids. Energy bands in solid. Okay, so before that, we have to introduce some uh, metals, insulators, semiconductors. Metals, semiconductors, insulators, my children. So what is metal? So metal is a material which have large number of free electrons. Okay, a substance which have large number of free electrons is called metals. Examples: copper, aluminum, silver, etc. Okay, my children. So which have resistivity in the range of 10 power minus 2 to 10 power minus 8 ohm meter. Okay, my children. Semiconductors, they have resistivity or conductivity intermediate to the metals and insulators. Okay, coming to insulators, they have high resistivity, low conductivity. Coming to energy band. So what is the definition of energy band? Yes. According to Bohr's atomic model and concept of electric configuration in isolated atom, the electrons have certain definite discrete amounts of energy corresponding to the different cells and subcells. That is, there are well defined energy levels of electrons in an isolated atom. My children, listen carefully. So, what is energy band? According to Bohr's atomic model and the concept of electronic configuration in an isolated atom, the electrons have certain definite discrete amount of energy corresponding to the different cells and subcells. That is, there are well defined energy levels of electrons in an isolated atom. But in a crystal, due to interatomic interaction, valence electrons are shared by more than one atom. Due to this, splitting of energy levels takes place. The collection of these closely spaced energy levels is called an energy band. Okay, once again, the valence electrons are shared by the more than one atom. Due to this splitting of energy levels take place, the collection of these closely spaced energy levels is called an energy band. These bands are formed due to the continuous energy variation in different energy level. These different energy levels in different electrons are formed because inside the crystal, each electron has a unique position and no two electrons is exactly at the same pattern of surrounding charges. Okay, see here, my children. According to law, quantum mechanical law, the energies of electron in a free atom cannot have arbitrary value but only some definite values, means quantization. However, if an atom belonging to a crystal, then the energy levels are modified. This modification is not possible in the case of energy levels of electron in the inner shell completely filled. But in the outermost shell, modification is appreciable because the electrons are shared by many neighboring atoms. Due to influence of high electric field between the core of the atom and the shared electron, energy levels are split up or spread out, forming energy bands. So, coming to metals, the first possible energy band diagram shows that conduction band is only partially filled with electrons. When a little extra energy, the electrons can easily reach the empty energy levels above the filled ones and the conduction is possible. Okay, see here, we have two bonds, conduction and valency bonds. The second possible energy diagram shows that the conduction band overlapping with valency band. This is because the lowest level in the conduction band needs less energy than the highest level in the valency band. The electrons in valence band overflows into conduction band and are free to move about in the crystal for conduction. The highest energy level in the conduction band occupies electrons in a crystal at absolute zero temperature is called Fermi level. The energies corresponding to this energy level is called Fermi energy. If the electrons get enough energy to go beyond this level, then conduction take place. Yes, already I discussed about energy band. Okay, so in metals, say it is metals means conductors. In a conductor, either there is no energy gap between the conduction band, which is partially filled with electrons, and valence band or conduction band and valence band overlap each other. Thus, many electrons from below the Fermi level can shift to higher energy level above the Fermi level in the conduction band and behaves as free electrons by acquiring a little more energy from any other source. So coming to insulators, in insulators, the valency band completely filled with the conduction band is completely empty. In this energy gap is quite large and even energy from any other source cannot help electron to overcome it. Thus electrons are bound to valence band and are not free to move. Hence electric conduction is not possible in this type of material. So coming to semiconductors, in semiconductors the valency band is totally filled and conduction band is empty, but the energy gap between the conduction band and valency band, unlike insulators, is very small. Thus, at room temperature, some electrons in the valency band acquires thermal energy greater than the energy band gap and jump over to the conduction band where they are free to move under the influence of even a small electric field and acquire small conductivity. Yes. Okay, this is about semiconductors. Semiconductors means the materials which lies between conductors and insulators, my dear children. Okay, example silicon, germanium. Silicon, germanium, gallium, these are the example for semiconductor, my children. Okay, up to this, the introduction of semiconductor electronic devices completed, my children.